I do come from a blessed background, but my father actually was quite strict with me. He didn't like to spoil me. I had what I needed, obviously, and more. But like these extra things that I liked, he was not willing to do. So I was like, okay, I want this. I'm gonna get it. I never took the word no. So let me figure out a way how to do it. And like I said, first memory comes to mind is at school selling the World Cup 2010 soccer cards.
Yeah.
And then from there, bro, I sold loom bands, all the different crazes. I'd follow trends, right? So there was a trend of making your own bracelets at school. I brought in a whole bunch from Amazon, actually. I had a family friend who was flying overseas, brought back in their suitcase boxes of these loom bands for me, sold it at school. That was great. I made enough money to buy a quad bike. You see, I was into like these. I was into these like wild things. I wanted a quad bike,
Sure.
And that was very exciting. Then I had like a detergent business, like I figured out that in our area, it was all Jewish families, right? And they're all buying Handy Andy and Sunlight Liquid and whatnot. And I was like, you know what? I can just make these things at home. And obviously it was like a free product, I'd take my mom's Handy Andy and Sunlight Liquid and I would mix it in a bottle with water and I'd sell it to all the different people. And I'd recycle the bottles and collect bottles from all over, take the labels off. That didn't last too long. I think they caught on to that it was not the greatest cleaning product. And then it kind of gradually grew. I started catching on to this, like what my community may see as old and rubbish, other communities see as gold, right? So my community would see old phones and it would just lie in a cupboard, Every year, 2 years, it's a blessing to get an upgrade, but most people would get an upgrade every 2 years on their contract, and then the old phone would just hang around, And I was like, whoa, what are you guys? This is treasure. What are you hanging around all this amazing stuff? That was the next thing. All the old cell phones in the area, I would go buying up. So if I'd say, you got an old phone, bro, like, give it to me. He said, no, I'm not giving it to you. I'd be like, okay, I'll buy it to you for 1,000 Rand. Then I'd collect all these old phones, old iPhones, old Samsungs, tablets, whatever it may be, and I would go to the kosher restaurants, the Jewish restaurants. And I'd go into the kitchen. I'd find the dishwashers. I'd find the chefs, the waiters, and I'd speak to them. I was like, guys, let's, this is what I got for sale. And I'd go into all the kitchen. This is what I got for sale. And I became known as like this kid that would go into all the restaurants selling to the staff. And I actually had a credit plan with them. I was this young kid. I wasn't doing much school, so I had a lot of time and I wasn't socializing much either. This was what I did for fun. Yeah. And other kids were, I don't know, playing soccer and doing this is what I was doing. This is now 11 years old, 12 years old. And so I mean, every week I would go and they would pay me 1,000 Rand this week. Then I'd come back every week. So it wasn't like you could default on your payment. You had this little kid driving you crazy every week. And I would drive their bosses crazy. If they owed me money, I'd phone their boss and say, your staff member owes me money, this and that. I would say, I wouldn't leave you. I would not leave you. And I'd take back products if you didn't pay. And that did actually really nicely. Then that, transpired and it did really well. And I stuck with that for about a year or so. I'm now 12 years old. And I see the same idea, but with clothing. So my family, for example, I've got 3 sisters and I was seeing like all this great clothing, again, blessed people. So we had nice clothing, but every few years, either you'd put on weight or you get new clothes or, you know what I'm saying? And like this clothing either was handed me down to other people or it would kind of get thrown away. And I'm like, no. This old clothing this is valuable to me. So I would go and I'd collect all the old clothing in my house and I'd do the same everywhere else. And the first stop with that actually was for men's clothing that I had. I would go to the coaches at the school. The male coaches at the school would sell to them. Great. Then I figured out, okay, my market now is a little bit small. There's only a couple of kosher restaurants and I've maxed out all these people. They've got enough credit with me. I don't want to push them too far. I was like Uber drivers, So I would order Ubers all day. I would go on a little trip. And I'd chat to the guys. I'd be like, guys, are you interested in this? I've got jerseys for you. I've got nice T-shirts for you, all secondhand. And I would disclose that. I would tell them it's secondhand. And it became a real like business in a sense. I became like the Uber driver plug, all the Uber drivers.
You catch Ubers just to market your business.
100%. I would
not because you needed to get anywhere.
Listen,
really.
I would never cancel the trip. So I would still go somewhere, but I would always be working with them in the car. So if I needed to go to the podcast, I would Uber. But in the ride, I would use that whole ride to to sell things to this driver. And in the end, he's made a loss times 5, you know, on the trip. And that actually did really well. So I built up a nice little informal business selling to Uber drivers and stuff like that. And then at about, that's 12 years old, 13, it's my bar mitzvah, right? And already at my bar mitzvah, I'm starting to love sneakers. Like, I'm in love with the whole sneakers and Air Force Ones, Nikes. And it hasn't really even hit here yet. It's very still like, if you had a pair of Air Force Ones, that was like godly, you know, 1,800 Rand for a pair of Air Force Ones. Back then was like crazy. A pair of Timberlands, you know, the Timberland boots. So like, we were still just coming up. To spend 3 grand on a shoe back then was like, wow, that's ridiculous.
A lot of money.
Do you know what I'm saying? So anyways, I have my bar mitzvah. I'm loving fashion, getting into it. At the time I'm starting to express myself. You know, I wore a green suit to my bar mitzvah. It's like the most unheard of thing you do.
For people that don't know, what's a bar mitzvah?
A bar mitzvah is a coming of age where a Jewish man becomes a man at 13 years old.
A Jewish boy becomes a man.
Sorry, a Jewish boy becomes a man. Yeah. Correct. You turn 13 and it's your rite of passage, if I'm saying that correctly. It's you become a man and you are responsible for yourself, technically, spiritually, from that day.